Hey there, I am back with another Free the Pip Friday where we open up some of the rarest decks around. And today we're going to be looking at Cult Air from Jocu playing cards. Now Jocu has quickly become one of my favorite designers out there. Anthony Holt and artist Alessandra Gagliano do some amazing work with their detailed and full custom decks. And if you're a fan of those highly artistic court cards and lots of story and mythology going into your decks, Jocu is going to be one that you're going to want to check out. But Cult is something a little bit special because it's the first Inner Circle exclusive deck. Inner Circle is the monthly subscription service, works a little bit like Patreon that Jocu launched late last year. And basically the way it goes is you pay a monthly subscription service, and for that you get access to a Jocu store where you can get decks at a discounted price. You get to follow along in the forums where you can see sneak previews of some of the decks and learn tons more about the story and detail that goes into the decks. And then every quarter you get a package sent to you, and among the decks that you get is going to be one of the Inner Circle exclusive decks, and this is the very first one. Now the theme of the first year of Cult, or of Jocu's decks in the Inner Circle, is going to be around cults. It's the story of a series of cults that cropped up around the world worshiping one of the four major elements. And so the first one is inspired by the Cult of Air. So that's a little bit about how the deck was created, but let's get into the design and uncover some of the secrets inside. All right, starting out with the tuck case. Like a lot of Jocu's decks, this one's printed by Boschero and Newton, one of the best tuck printers in the world, and this tuck is truly impressive. Now it's a two-layer tuck case, so the blue here is sort of the main base layer, and this white down here is actually a sleeve that's fit over the bottom. The blue features a beautiful embossing pattern and the little spots of silver foil. The embossing pattern kind of forms this abstract look of like wind blowing all the way around the deck. So it almost looks like clouds or currents of air as they flow through the deck. And then those silver specks, almost like dust that's being carried through the air. That same pattern continues all the way around the tuck case. Very few other words on it anywhere, but really cool. Love the subtle embossing that's done on this. Really gives it a nice texture. And then the bottom sleeve here has an even cooler texture. Hard to make out here, but it's done on this sort of pearlescent, almost shimmering paper. And if you look at it, there has a really fine detailed pattern that almost looks like feathers. It's a really cool effect. Feathers or wisps of a cloud or something like that, but really well done, and that embossing of that just super impressive. The bottom has a stylized cult written on there, a little bit hard to read, but has that super ornate script. And then the bottom sleeve is attached to the main tuck with this silver metallic tuck seal, or a silver metallic wax seal, I should say. On the wax seal is the alchemical symbol for air, that triangle with a line through it. And then the other side of that seal is holding a blue ribbon in place that wraps over the top of the deck and sort of keeps it closed. As you flip to the back, you can see that white sleeve continues all the way around. And then on the back, it has the numbering printed here. So out of 1,000 total decks, I have number 307, and then Jocu playing cards at the bottom. Now the way you open this up to get this ribbon off, there's no easy way to pull the ribbon off. So what Jocu suggests, and what I did, was to go under here and actually cut the ribbon. Wish I hadn't had to cut the ribbon, but it really is the best way to get it out there. And when you're done, you just tuck the ribbon back in. Looks like nothing happened. But that lets you pull the ribbon off and reveal the top of the tuck. So you've got Cult written one more time there, a little bit more embossing, and then you can open up the tuck case. And as you get through, you'll see some little wind or air alchemical symbols there on the flaps. And of course, you get some beautifully done interior printing or interior foiling as well. That big circular element with wind symbols there in the center, and then printing all the way down the tuck case, including what look like some little snowflakes and things like that down there as well, or spirals of wind, maybe they are. But really cool, beautifully conceived tuck case and beautiful execution by Boschero and Newton as always. So there's the tuck case, but let's get into the cards. And as usual, we'll start with the back design. So they're done on a classic blue, deep sort of navy blue, and then this paler blue and white for the design. The design here on the back features a two-way design, and the main element is this guy here, which I believe is a representation of the north wind, Boreas, as he was known in Greek mythology. You can see him there, almost like he's blowing there with his lips pursed. And you can see some of Alessandra's art style right off the bat. I love the way that she designs the hair with those thick lines and kind of gives a real sense of motion to the card overall. Really, really cool artwork on those. And I love the simple, just sort of two-toned color scheme used throughout here. Lots of symbology all the way around, and of course little gusts of wind filling in as the extra filler space in there. Finishes out with a series of borders and then that navy blue poker border. So beautiful back design to the cards. Love that they're two-way. Just think it's great all around. All right, extra cards that you get a pair of jokers. They feature some characters here that are just dancing in the wind, and you can see them kind of in ballet poses with the wind swirling all the way around them. I don't think these are particular characters. I could be wrong about that, but I love the ribbon-like wind that's curling around them and really just sort of adds to that sense of motion of the cards. Really ornate Joker written in the corners. You have the male dancer on the black or more like navy blue cards, and then the red Joker for the female. So, nicely done on those. All right, you get a gaff card, one double backer, and you get an ad card here. Features a poem at the top, and then mentions these are designed by Alessandro Gagliano based on a concept by Anthony Holt, and of course produced by Jocu. And also gives a little nod to the inner circle. By the way, if you want to join the inner circle, that's where you go. All right, so there's your extra cards. Now let's take a look at the aces. The ace of spades, like most decks, is the power ace. Features that large navy blue kind of bulbous spade pip in the center, and then really sort of abstract representations of wind all around. You have the swirls of wind that are just curling off of the spade pip, and then what kind of looks like a wind chime here in the center. I think that's what it is, but you can see the dangling strings, and that would sort of be tinkling or making noise in the wind. So very cool. I love the sort of abstract nature of it. I think it's really well designed. And then really fancy font for the index in the corner and that same rounded spade pip. The other three aces are not as custom, but are custom in their own right. They feature nice large custom pips in the center, and each one sort of ornamented with something that you maybe would associate with wind in some way. So you have, like, from the winter storm, the snowflake represented on the diamond, the club has the clouds, and then the heart has what kind of seems like sand or dust that's blowing up in the wind. So your red cards are kind of that really deep, almost maroon color, and then a deep navy blue for the traditionally black cards. So that's your aces. The number cards are fully custom as well. Each one of them has those same style pips that we saw before, but one or more of the pips on each card are going to be customized a little bit. So you have some that are solid, and then some pips that feature extra little details on them. Like this one has that swirl of wind. I really like the non-identical pips on the same card and doing this sort of random one-off pips. I think it's a really cool design element that I wish more decks would use. So as you go to the diamonds now, it features the crystal there, the snow crystal. And then into the clubs, feature a little hint of a cloud there on the pips that are more customized. And finally, into the hearts with that explosion of dust. So very nice pips on these, while still keeping them nice, simple, functional cards. And then we get into the court cards. Now the court cards are really where the story of the cult comes to life. All of the court cards are going to feature some of the prophets, the gods and goddesses that were worshipped by the cult itself. So all of them associated with wind in some way. And there's different sort of sub-themes as we go into each of the ranks. So starting with the jacks, these are all going to be characters that are tied together by music in some way. Music, of course, is carried on the wind. And so a really sort of fitting and interesting sort of out-of-the-box way of thinking about wind. Now I'll tell a little bit of the story of each one of these. So we start with the Jack of Spades. This one is a character that comes from German mythology in the Middle Ages. This one's the Pied Piper. So the story was that the Pied Piper was hired by the town of Hamelin to use his magical pipe here to lure away all of the rats that had infested the town. After he did so, though, the townspeople refused to pay him, and so to get revenge, he instead turned his pipe on the children of the town and lured them all away with his magical music. And you see him there with that really sort of serene look on his face as he plays his pipe, and you can see the music notes drifting on the wind. Beautiful two-way chords, and really get that feel of the amazing work that Alessandra Gagliano does on her artwork. This is probably my favorite of the Jacks. The Jack of Diamonds features Emergen Gluingel, I think is how you pronounce his name. He was a poet and bard from Irish mythology, and he led the Milesians to victory over the ancient pagan gods and took over all of Ireland. I love the look of his hair. It almost looks like feathers or something like that to me. That beard and the long hair in the back, and he's playing his trademark harp there. All right, the Jack of Clubs is from my favorite mythology, Greek mythology. This is Pan, who is the Greek god of the wild and patron of shepherds. In his hand here, you can see the pan flute, named, of course, for him. And those pipes came out of the story of his failed love for the nymph Syrinx. She spurned all of his attentions and tried to escape him. And then as she was escaping, she cried to Zeus for help. Zeus turned Syrinx into some reeds. Pan saw that happen, flew into a rage and smashed the reeds to bits. And then after doing so, almost immediately felt sadness and remorse. So as he was weeping over these broken reeds, he realized that his breath over the reeds could actually create music. And so he decided to fashion the reeds that represented his lost love into this instrument so that he could carry her name into the winds forever. So that's the story of the pan flute, and really nice illustration on this one. Again, you get that look of that really cool hairstyle that Alessandra Gagliano uses. All right, and last of the Jacks, this one is Orpheus. He was a legendary musician of Greek mythology. He was actually taught to play this instrument, the lyre, by Apollo himself. Apollo was the god of music and taught Orpheus personally. It was said that his music could be used to charm animals and even make the trees dance. So there's your Jacks. The Queens turn to a little bit of a different theme. The Queens, instead of going after music, go after natural disasters that are associated with air in some way. So each one of these is tied to some air-related natural disaster, kind of a personification of each. Queen of Spades represents hurricane. You can see that angry look on her face as she screams and those swirling hurricane clouds around her. Really, really like that one. The Queen of Diamonds, this one's inspired by the blizzard. You can see that cold, dispassionate look on her face, and then she's surrounded by the snowflakes. And I really like that snowflake necklace that she has. And then you go to the Queen of Clubs. You could probably guess this one. This is inspired by the tornado. What I really love about this one is that unique pose with her head thrown back, almost like she's blowing those tornadoes into the air. Very, very cool look, and an original pose on the core card that I think really works well. And the last of our disasters is the Queen of Hearts, who represents the sandstorm. So you can see her with that little bottle of sand there as the sand swirls all around her. Big plague in the deserts of the world. So there's your 4 queens. And then last but not least are the gods themselves, who are really sort of at the center of the air cult. And of course, it's very fitting that these represent the 4 main winds, the anemoi, the anemoi as they were called in Greece, the 4 winds of the north, south, east, and west, who brought with them many of the seasons and storms that drove people's lives. The King of Spades here, this one is the cold north wind Boreas. He was the bringer of winter, and so you can see the sort of cold clouds and almost sort of abstract snowflake looks around him. The King of Diamonds here, blowing on that conch shell. This is Notus, the south wind. He was the bringer of the storms of the late summer and autumn, and he was actually very feared as a destroyer of crops. And he's got that hood pulled up over him and blowing wind off to the side. King of Clubs here, this is Zephyrus, the western wind, and he was the most gentle of all the winds, the bringer of spring. So much a kinder look to him, and you can see that sort of peaceful look on his face as well. Definitely a lot less harsh looking than some of the others. And last but not least, the King of Hearts, this is Eurus. He was the east wind and also the wind of storms, and had a big impact on ships in the area, would kind of blow ships over with his storms. And I guess that's probably what the pouring jug is all about there. So there is Eurus. So very beautiful look. And just to finish out the deck with one last element of luxury, these are gilded as well. You may have noticed that before, but the silver gilding pairs beautifully with that blue. Nice mirror finish as you always get with the gilding. And just one last luxury finish on this beautiful deck. Now, as far as handling, sometimes with gilding, you get cards that don't handle too well, but these are printed by Cardamundi on their true linden finish, and they fan and handle beautifully. Super smooth. You maybe get a little bit of impact from the gilding, but not much. I gotta say, Cardamundi does so well with these really gilded decks, some of the best ones in my opinion. So really great job on the handling overall. Now, I will say, if you are an Inner Circle member, you actually get a slightly different version of the deck. So there's two different versions. This is what I would call the more standard release one, maybe, but there are some slight differences on the Inner Circle exclusive version. Not many. The cards inside are the same gilding and everything, but you can see here the color of that seal on the front has changed, and the ribbon, so they're inverted in colors. Instead of the silver seal and blue ribbon, you get a blue seal and silver ribbon. And as you turn it over, they are still numbered out of the 1,000, but the first 200 decks are reserved for Inner Circle. So you'll see I've got number 12 out of 1,000. So very cool that they added that little bit to make these a little bit special and unique. But that's it. That is the look at Cult from Inner Circle. I'll put a link down in the description if you want to check out Inner Circle for yourself. I absolutely recommend it. I mean, just the forums and the stories themselves are worth the price of admission. So you won't regret it if you're a fan of those highly custom decks. So hope you enjoyed this look. Make sure to check out the link in the description if you want to follow along, by the way, for my Rattler Gorge campaign that's launching on Kickstarter on July 27th. Stay tuned for that. Follow along on Kickstarter for that. But that's it. That is the look at Cult from Jocu Playing Cards. Hope you enjoyed. Make sure to subscribe for more deck reviews and unboxings. Let me know what else you want to see, and I'll see you for the next one.